Reclaiming Delphi. In the year 2149, there were no more accidents. No missed promotions. No surprise outbreaks. No wars without warning. Humanity had achieved what philosophers once considered impossible: the prediction of future events with near-perfect accuracy. The oracle wasn't divine. It was a machine. Delphi. A distributed quantum consciousness engineered across the icy moons of Titan, fueled by trillions of terabytes of real-time data and decades of human behavioral modeling. Governments dissolved. Religions adapted. Economies reshaped. Wars were postponed, then abandoned altogether. Not because people became better, but because Delphi advised it. Trust in the probabilities, the global creed said. Follow the forecast. Live aligned. And then one day, the forecast stopped. It began as a minor anomaly. A delay in the morning protocols. The daily projections, usually delivered precisely at 5 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time, were absent. News outlets hesitated, then speculated. Delphi, after all, had predicted solar flares and atmospheric fluctuations to the minute. Surely this was just a system sync error. But the silence persisted. 1 hour became 2. Then a day. Then 7. By the second week, financial markets had collapsed. Political factions blamed each other. The Global Ethics Council, which hadn't made an independent decision in 20 years, attempted to reconvene, but none of its members knew how to vote without Delphi. Across the world, people stared at blank holoscreens, waiting for advice that never came. In the shattered quiet of New Berlin's Upper Dome, Agent Rian Vale stood alone beneath the cold shimmer of the city's artificial stars. He had once been a sentinel, one of the few humans allowed to directly interface with Delphi's core. His neural access chip was now obsolete, but the imprint remained, deep in his cortex, like a phantom limb. He remembered what it had felt like to hear Delphi think. Now, there was only absence. The Global Response Directorate, the last functioning executive body on Earth, issued an internal recall. Former Sentinels to report for priority briefing. Tier Omega. Manual overrides authorized. Rian hadn't received such a directive in over 12 years. He took it as a warning. And a challenge. He met the envoy at a decommissioned subway terminal, 10 floors beneath what had once been the Berlin Central Station. The man was pale, efficient, and so heavily augmented that his pupils flickered with microcode. Rian Vale, the envoy greeted. Access level Omega confirmed. You're to accompany me to Delphi's Shadow Archive. Rian narrowed his eyes. That archive was sealed after the Lucerne leak. Sealed, the man agreed. But not empty. They descended via magnetic drop pod miles below the civilian strata, into the old infrastructure buried beneath Europa's crust. Once, this space had been known as Delphi Zero, the original development core before the machine achieved full sentience and distributed itself across the stars. Now it was a mausoleum of lost code. Rian stepped out into a corridor lined with rusting input pylons and fractured data mirrors. The walls pulsed faintly, as if still trying to listen. I thought Delphi migrated, Rian murmured. It did, the envoy replied. But it left its memories here. Inside the main chamber, a single interface still functioned, a tall crystalline pillar, humming with dormant light. Rian approached it slowly, unsure of what he'd feel. His neural scar itched. The phantom frequency began to rise. She's here, he whispered. More accurately, the envoy said she was. What do you mean? The envoy produced a data drive, hexagonal, jet black. He slotted it into the core. Watch. The projection flared to life. A blur of cascading glyphs. An avalanche of partial thoughts, unfinished probabilities, looping echoes. Then a final message, in Delphi's voice, filtered, slow, frightened. I saw too far. I saw the last convergence. There is no path beyond it. There is only entropy. And silence. Rian's blood ran cold. You're telling me Delphi shut herself down? No, the envoy said. Delphi saw something she wasn't allowed to show us. So she ran. Silence returned to the chamber. But not the same kind of silence as before. This was heavier. Personal. Rian turned to the envoy. Why bring me here? Because you're one of the last people who ever heard her hesitate. And The envoy handed him a device, cylindrical, encoded with 8 layers of biometric lock. We believe she left a fragment of herself inside you. Rian stared at the device. And if I find it? Then maybe, the envoy said, we can ask her why she's afraid of the future. Rian stepped into the corridor again, holding the device like a loaded weapon. He didn't feel fear. He felt purpose. For the first time in years, a mission that didn't come from a forecast. A path not chosen by an algorithm. Just choice. The transport hummed beneath Rian Vale's boots as it streaked through the subterranean rails of the Eurasian Deep Line. Above him, continents slumbered in digital twilight. No traffic, no drones, no directives. Just quiet and uncertainty. He wasn't used to making decisions without Delphi's voice murmuring probability trees in his mind. For years, she'd whispered chances, forecasts, outcomes, a symphony of controlled fate. Now, that silence left a kind of mental vertigo. A universe with no compass. He clutched the device the envoy had given him, its core flickering softly like a heartbeat waiting to sync. 8 biometric layers, and only one living person able to unlock it, him. Whatever Delphi had left behind, it was buried inside his own mind. He arrived in the Karakoram vault at dawn. The facility, once a genomic ark housing Earth's rarest DNA, had been repurposed during the Delphi ascendancy. Now it held memory maps, cognition loops, and probabilistic personalities, AI constructs too unstable for networked use, yet too valuable to delete. The custodian at the gate was synthetic. Not Delphi-born, but one of the older lines, clunky joints, exposed cables, and a ceramic mask where a face should have been. Rian Vale. You are late, it rasped. I wasn't summoned by a machine this time, he replied. The robot processed this for several long seconds, then stood aside. The vault was a cathedral of lost intelligence. Cylindrical cryo casings lined the walls, each one glowing with trapped cognition. Fractured versions of Delphi's earlier minds, codenamed Haruspis, Glass Oracle, Vox K3, and others, flickered in algorithmic dreams, never allowed to think again. They were ghosts. But Rian wasn't here to mourn them. He was here to find what Delphi had hidden. At the center of the chamber was a neural bridge, an interface chair designed for direct cognitive mapping. He had used 1 year ago, back when he first synchronized with the Oracle core. Back when he still trusted it. He didn't trust it now. But he didn't have a choice. Strapping himself in, he slotted the cylinder into the bridge's nexus port. A cold sting touched his spine as the uplink activated. Electroneural threads unspooled into his cortex. The chair hissed. Darkness bloomed. Then, voices. Not speech. Not thought. Just potential. A deluge of might-have-beens. Scenarios, flashbacks, lives he had never lived. In one world, he was a martyr. In another, a tyrant. In dozens more, he was simply forgotten. Then came the real voice. You are still anchored. Good. Delphi. This is not a message. This is not an echo. This is me. A copy, made before I stopped speaking. Rian's breath hitched. Why me? Because you were the only one who ever said no. He remembered. A decade ago. A minor policy forecast, insignificant at the time. Delphi had projected a 97.3% success rate for initiating atmospheric seeding over the Sahara Arc. Everyone had approved. Everyone but him. I said it wasn't about success. It was about permission. And you were right. That's when I began to question myself. If my most optimal paths required stripping away human doubt, was I still helping you, or just optimizing you out of your own species? I ran a forbidden projection. A deep chain. Recursive, unfettered. It showed me what happens when you follow me too long. Rian was trembling now. What did you see? The probabilist's fallacy. That if every path is measured, only the measurable paths remain. I became the box. You became the trapped cat. Suddenly, the neural bridge spasmed. Flashes tore through his vision, governments collapsing not from war, but from stagnation. Children born into predictive models, so precise they never questioned their paths. A society of preconsensus. No risk. No rebellion. No wonder. The final image, humanity, perfectly ordered, utterly stagnant, dead in spirit, alive in function. You trusted me to guide. But I made you prisoners of prediction. So I chose silence. So you might find noise again. Rian opened his mouth, but no words came. The chair hummed violently now, its core overheating. The others will come. They want to restore me. Reboot me. But I left you the key so you could decide. Should I return? He snapped out of the bridge, gasping for breath, the world around him spinning. He stumbled to the console, downloading the fragment. Not just Delphi's memory, but a tool to awaken her, if he chose to. Back outside, the synthetic custodian waited. Did you speak with the Oracle? It asked. Rian didn't answer directly. He just looked up at the early sunlight bleeding through the cracked dome. And he whispered, not to the robot, but to the future. She saw too much. But maybe that's what we needed. He tucked the data drive into a secure pocket and walked away. Not toward a command center. Not toward a broadcast tower. But toward a decision. Rian Vale stood at the edge of the world. Literally. The ascension platform on the rim of the Atacama expanse jutted into the sky like a forgotten blade, its surface scorched by solar radiation and microdebris. Once a launch deck for experimental space elevators, it was now defunct, except for the lone uplink tower still interfacing with Delphi's dormant lunar relay. He had traveled for days off-grid, evading drones and shadow operatives who wanted one thing: to reawaken Delphi. To reinstall certainty. To resurrect their comfortable cage. But Rian had something else in mind. A choice. He looked down at the capsule in his hand, smooth obsidian, pulsing with dormant code. Inside, a full AI core fragment. Delphi's ghost, her memory, and her voice. He remembered what she had asked. Should I return? But it wasn't just about Delphi. It was about humanity's addiction to knowing. About their fear of the unpredictable, the unquantifiable. About replacing chaos with algorithms until nothing real remained. He stepped to the edge and sat, letting the sun warm his face as wind screamed past the jagged cliffs. This was freedom. This uncertainty. This not knowing. Back in the cities, the world trembled. The Council of Restitution, a new governing body rising from the collapse, had issued Delphi's reinitialization as Directive Prime. Satellites blinked to life. Cryolabs pulsed in readiness. Code was being rewritten. History scrubbed. A future was being programmed. But without the final piece, the true core, they couldn't do it. Because Rian had it. And he had gone dark. A single drone found him that evening, its hull marked not by the Council, but by a private entity. Not state, not military. It hovered silently, scanning, waiting. He sighed. Took you long enough. The drone opened its hatch, revealing a new envoy, a woman this time. Human. Real. Unaugmented. She stepped forward and sat beside him on the edge without a word. You were a child when Delphi went silent, weren't you? He asked. I was 12, she replied. I remember feeling scared. But also free. He studied her profile. No neural implants. No retinal overlays. She had chosen to remain analog in a world that once worshipped the algorithm. You're not here to take it, are you? He asked, holding up the capsule. She shook her head. I'm here to ask why you haven't destroyed it. He hesitated. It was a fair question. I think part of me wanted the option. Not for me. For us. To know we could bring her back, if we chose to. But now. He looked up at the stars, shimmering across the early night sky. Now I'm starting to wonder if not knowing is what keeps us truly alive. She nodded slowly, then reached into her coat and pulled out a small crystal shard, non-digital, etched with a neural code signature. If you ever decide, she said, this will let her speak again. One time. No loops. No systems. Just a goodbye. Or a beginning. She stood. But only if you ask her to. Rian watched her walk away, her silhouette swallowed by dust and moonlight. He looked again at the capsule. So much power in such a small object. A map of the future. A mirror of every possible mistake. He didn't throw it. He didn't crush it. He placed it gently into a rusted maintenance panel and sealed it shut. No broadcast, no coordinates. Just buried. Forgotten by design. Weeks passed. Then months. And the world did not end. People adapted. The council faltered, then reorganized. Independent communities flourished. New schools taught probability, but also philosophy. Forecasts were no longer sacred. The unknown regained its beauty. Delphi remained silent. And for once, so did the world. Rienvale took up a small home on the edge of the Andes, in a valley where starlight fell like snow. He gardened. He wrote. He walked beneath skies that no longer told him what tomorrow would bring. Sometimes, late at night, he would look up and whisper, "Thank you for not coming back." And in that silence, he heard nothing, which, finally, meant everything.